Another Do Not to God video presentation. So another complainer type. I had some grievances with something I've said or how I've said it. Right, 1% of the content violates his code of some kind, and therefore 99% of the content has to be thrown out. That kind of bullshit. Yeah, what the hell happened here? No, yes, stay here, thank you. Appreciate it. Computer. Sorry, talking to the computer.
Recent events have shown, I think, the real drawbacks with taking on antinatalism as an ideological cause, as opposed to an ethical stance.
Whatever that means, right? So there's absolutely nothing ideological that's separate from any conversation about ethics. There really isn't. I mean, how exactly do you describe ethics in any other way than to point out some axioms? We either agree or don't agree that there's a substantial difference between a sentient brain being comfortable and one that's uncomfortable. That difference can be extreme, in terms of a value difference. There's the axiom. It would be bad for the extreme negative. That's a fact. And the rest of the argument is about whether any of this stuff that's called a good feeling is anything other than the absence of the bad feeling.
For quite a while, antinatalism has been evolving from what was originally an ethical position one took from a pessimist appreciation of existence.
So again, he's arguing that somehow everybody has to be derived energy, or everybody has to be Schopenhauer, or who knows what Nietzsche's stance would have been if he had to actually be forced to say yes or no to pressing the go button. But clearly, the argument is just about life being either futile, or the argument is it's substantially negative, that the cost is insanely high, and that this isn't about just being futile. Making a mess, cleaning up a mess. No, the argument is there's a huge mess that's never cleaned up. You never undo it. The worst horrors experienced will never be compensated for by some perfect little dance some human does.
And for a while it looked like antinatalism was becoming just another newer word for pessimism. But antinatalism...
Well, whatever that even means. I mean, it's obviously somewhat pessimistic if you care about feeling things and they're being harmed through negligence and ignorance and stupidity. That is, they're being harmed without any necessary compensating positive. That's a tragedy. What else is there to conclude? Oh, animation, physics animation down there in the bottom. Yeah, just... So there's no video for these people. They don't make videos as humans. They make videos as patios and things.
Always had within it one major flaw. The first time I read Benatar's book, I appreciated his argument and accepted the conclusion that was only because I was already consciously a pessimist, which derived from nothing much more important than personal dissatisfaction with the world, my own life, and life in general.
Well, those are all different things, aren't they? Disappointment with the human race is one thing. Recognition that the life game itself, like the Olympics, you could realize, hey, there's winners, but look at all the losers, and look at all the disappointment. The number of tears of sadness is so much greater than the number of tears of joy. For the participants, it really is sort of a tragedy, not something for everybody to clap and celebrate. A bunch of people are harmed, yay! A bunch of losers were created, yay! Doesn't seem very rational.
Story. But another thing I saw right away was the absolute impossibility of antinatalism being adopted as a general worldwide social policy.
Oh, you have the crystal ball and you figured it out, huh? So atheism will never win. Even believing that bullfighting is cruel, that would never win. I could come up with actual thing like burning witches. Oh, we'll never figure out that it's not a good idea to burn a witch. let's see what other, drilling holes in the skull. They believe that for a long time. Yeah, drill some holes in the skull, the demons will get out and you won't be insane anymore. Crap like that. Oh, you can never defeat those beliefs. No, human beings will never become sensible. No, it's not possible. I think your prediction is made out of your pessimism, frankly. It's made out of your, no, it's not pessimism. You're just not a realist. You're not a real thinker. Because if you do the logic, there's absolutely no reason to believe there's any barrier to round Earth. Right? Lots of people believe the Earth was flat. Not everybody, but lots of people. And they got over it, didn't they, with time? Because the evidence became obvious. And so it's just about people like me making the point that the evidence is kind of obvious. You can deny evolution, but the evidence is insanely obvious now. It's just all over the place. You can't turn around without seeing it. And if you aren't seeing it, you aren't seeing it on purpose. So it's that sort of argument. There's no I'm ignorant thing anymore in the civilized world. There's only belligerent ignorance. People are only ignorant because they want to be. Okay, and they're running away from the truth. And that's the truth. And the more that's pointed out, the more they'll be humiliated, and then maybe they'll just shut up. But you don't have any argument for any kind of optimism. There's no rational argument for any rational optimism. It's not a rational philosophy. Optimism is irrational.
For the philanthropic reasons Benatar gives, there's no way that everyone...
Philanthropic. Yes, I'm a philanthropic non-rapist. Big deal. I've never raped a woman. Give me a trophy. I never committed the crime. I mean, that's silly. It's silly to talk about this as if we can solve the problem by convincing everybody to be a do-gooder. No, we have to always pass laws. You can't stop people even from littering. There are fools and idiots in the world, and they need to be restrained. They need to have do not step on the grass kind of signs put up because they're just too stupid. It's wet cement. They can't figure out not to step in it. And they'll step in it maliciously because they don't give a shit that tax dollars paid for it. They don't care. They're reckless, sloppy, and wasteful, and they need to be contained by regulation and law. And the smart people are responsible for doing that. Now, the lazy, silly people will do what you're doing. Sit on their patio and say, I'm being philanthropic by doing nothing. No, you're not.
In the world is going to adopt one single, complete social policy in anything. But let alone...
So again, they've done it. So it's already a proven fact that the world can do that. All the civilized countries have civilized common laws where they've recognized simple truths and they're just pretty well established. And so it is just absolutely silly for you to argue that there'll never be any international agreement on anything. There is already. It's already proven that you can do this.
Something as, let's be honest, as outrageous as ending all life on the planet.
Again, outrageous. Why? Oh, is it outrageous religion? I'm just saying, Darwin made some pretty clear little statements about the fact that tooth and claw of evolution, and he was, it paused him, gave him reason to pause. Now, he had 8 kids. He might say, well, the struggle must go on, the show must go on. He might say the words, the show must go on. But there's no rationality to why must the show go on? Circuses won't exist pretty soon, right? I mean, people realize it's way too expensive, way too costly, too many things. It's not efficient. It's not practical entertainment. That's a tragedy because the show won't go on? No, there's no tragedy. And the same is going to be true when the end comes here. And the fact is, the show will end. The only question is we'll be stupid enough to just wait for the crude, awful end instead of doing something sensible, like figure out how to gracefully exit. That's it. Those are the 2 choices. Stupidly watch or gracefully force the graceful exit. We see what side you're on, right? You're just a stupid watcher.
There are no circumstances in which such a notion would be accepted and no reason to believe.
So again, it's just no circumstances except all the ones that I've grew up in. And so I grew up in a free country. They had the option, the ability to convince me that God exists, and they failed because it's a stupid theory. And then inspecting the circle of life and all of those silly little fables, I realized, no, I don't want to watch 10 Simbas die to watch one live. No, I don't want to watch that movie. So if 10 Simbas have to die for one to live, no, I don't want to do that circle of life thing. Totally uninterested in watching those negative films just as so one positive film can happen. That isn't all that positive. You know, Simba has to be a bug eater, has to deny his role, has to deny responsibility, cause a lot of suffering and grief for the pride, you know, and then show up to kill his own uncle. Gee, big fun there. Well, let's do that again. No, let's pass.
People will do so. That I take as a given, and so, it seems, does Benatar to his credit.
So more nonsense. His futility isn't as deep as yours. But anyway, yes, the fact that you are fatalistic and feudalistic is really not a rational argument. Benatar's argument is just as unravelable as yours. It's not based on anything. If I ask Benatar, do you think atheism will never win? So do you think that vegetarianism will never win? Nothing can ever win? Chauvinism will always, the chauvinist will always win? You know, women will always be chained to a sink and forced to be pregnant or something? No, every sign of civilization indicates progress. Now, it's sideways and it's crooked and they take, 2 steps forward, one step back sometimes, sometimes 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Yeah, but you can see the overall trend line is positive. And it's just a matter of time. And some of us are just arguing, why wait? Why pretend this is at all complicated? God should have died hundreds of years ago. Every intellectual knew it. And the reason why he's still alive is because we feed ignorant people and they breed. And they teach their kids how to be retarded.
So antinatalism, at best, is just accepting the point that if life is not worth the stress and pain it takes to live it, it is wrong to create more of it. Very simple, and it does not have to go any further than that.
Well, it certainly does if you understand brains aren't possessed by humans alone. So if you understand that brains are sentient, that there's absolutely nothing special about the human brain in terms of having some elemental thing that makes us feel and makes everything else just pretend to. If you think that's true, you're a silly person. You think dogs are just pretending to have emotional experiences? You think they're just pretending to be emotional? No. You're silly.
An individual can adopt such a notion, thus being able to call oneself an antinatalist, as one might well call oneself any other number of things. An individual can inform others of this notion, try to spread the idea of it around even.
Again, a notion. It's not a notion. It's either a fact or not a fact, and it's a significant fact. If most of the animals are trapped in a horrible, Mengele-esque maze of torture and death, who's going to rescue them but us? Who can understand it besides us? Who can hear their cries besides us? No one. We're it. If we fail, harm and pain and suffering will be imposed. The Nazis get to win then. That's what this is about. You just don't see any interest here. You're saying I'm not compelled by any realization that there's a huge amount of real harm at stake. And I have some responsibility because I can see it. I can know it's there. I can see the future rationally. I can see exactly where it's going, exactly what will be paid in terms of the substance of it, not the particulars of it. I don't know how many people will be named Jimmy in the future. Maybe nobody. But the truth is that fact, either if it doesn't compel you, then I'm saying you're a liar and a nihilist and an idiot. Because it's no different than your own welfare. The welfare of the future isn't, this 100 years in history isn't some special 100 years. This is the only one that matters. This one, it matters whether they suffer too much. No, they all matter. And the ones in the future are more than us. There's more at stake potentially. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of generations.
Should one feel compelled to do so? But there is no compulsion at all to do so. That decision can come down only to...
What do you mean there's no compulsion? The reasoning is all there is. There either is reasoning to fight or not a reason to fight. You're a nihilist, obviously. I don't know why you're even part of any community of anything. I don't know why you are particularly having conversation about any of this stuff. What's your personal gain in it? Because that's your nihilist attitude. You're either compelled because there's a cause here or there's no cause. This has nothing to do with, compelled by some other thing than your rational perception of a danger or a harm. I show you the concentration camps in Nazi Germany. You're either compelled to say that's a bad thing or you're not. And I would argue if you're not compelled to say it's bad and needs to be stopped, you're an asshole. Is that too complicated for you?
Individual. Unfortunately, the idea has been taken from an ethical stance to become an ideology.
So more nonsense. These words, playing little word games. I'm going to pretend ideology is something different than everything else that everybody else has. They have an ideology. I have some sort of philosophy. Is that it? You're just playing word games, aren't you? I mean, what else is that? You're not reasoning how there's fundamentally anything wrong with the axioms of the antinatalist or the axioms of the ethicist. So point out how there's some particular fact they have wrong. Point out to me how evolution isn't a fact. Point out to me how it's not a gladiator game. Point out to me how somebody else's happiness compensates for somebody else's pain. So I can torture somebody as long as I'm jerking off to it. That's okay. I'm happy, he's not happy. Even. Well done. Is that your reasoning? I don't think you have any reasoning.
There are all sorts of reasons for this. I think one main reason is that in popular culture today, there is a strong belief that if there is a problem, there has to be a solution. An
Well, so it's more nonsense, right? Of course, if there's an error, you can correct for the error. Everything has, in practical fact, there is a diagram. You can draw it without the crack in the glass. You can put a new piece of glass in. There's always a solution of some kind. Now, some solutions are expensive, some are really cheap. And then you can measure whether the solution is worth the cost. But, again, what is this implication? That this is some sort of special problem that doesn't have a solution? Of course it has a solution. Preventing life has a solution. Don't make babies. There. Solved. Not complicated. Just turn the valve off. No big deal.
Realism responds to that thinking. Basically, unlike garden variety pessimism, in which one simply admits the world is shit.
Garden variety pessimism, you're just saying casually reckless and stupid philosophy. Okay, philosophy doesn't have any points to it, any references to a fact. He's just saying generalizations that mean nothing. Why don't you just tell Jew jokes or Italian jokes or something? I mean, this is just generalizations. This is profiling nonsense. You have to make a specific argument, okay? All philosophies are not the same. All solutions aren't the same. You're just arguing from nothing. You're saying my general perception is I am negative. I'm not negative for a rational reason. You're a pessimist for no rational reason? Is that what you're arguing? Well, I'm a pessimist for absolutely rational reasons. Real explicit reasons. I can point to the concentration camps. They're right there. I can point to them. Right now, I can point to the factory farms. I can point to nature's insane ethics. Kill 10,000 to make one mature adult. I can point right at it and say, there's a problem, buddy. Okay, no doubt about it. And it's fixable.
The emphasis is put on giving birth. That being the case, a solution is imagined, even though in practice it's impractical. But the impractical...
All right, so again, this impractical in what context? So the civilized world was already in declining population. Japan has declining population. Any country that doesn't import stupid poor people is in declining population, okay? So anybody who has a high school degree or better, if that's what your population has, you will have negative population growth. That is, you are on the path to extinction. And you don't even have to be a philosopher. You don't have to be an antinatalist. You don't have to give a shit about the poor, suffering people in the future without even understanding the argument. The world is already doing it, retard. And here you are saying it can't be done. I mean, you know how incredible you sound? I mean, that's just stupid. Is there some other way to look at that except as a stupid statement? It's impossible for you to win. Well, we already won. I mean, take away, like I said, take away the most ignorant people on earth, the bottom 3%. Take them off the planet and we've completely won. Is that not a fact? Can you show me some data that demonstrates that that's not the truth? I mean, the only thing you have to abolish is ignorance, and you win. The game is already over, and I didn't have to fire a philosophical shot. People already figured it out on their own. Having kids is a pain in the ass. That's what a person who has a life says. A person who is an adult, has had enough time to live a little while, figures out that I'd rather be doing a lot of things than wasting 18 years of my life talking baby talk to an asshole who won't listen to me anyway.
Reality of solutions has never stopped anyone before. The disastrous utopian social experiments of the 20th century alone are testament to that.
Oh, more generic conspiracy theory horse shit. You know, oh, we don't evolve, no. So he thinks that today, you know, we could commit the same atrocity against, say, the Native Americans or some other thing. You know, it's a whole different game, and the game changes every, 10 years. It's a new game you're playing. So this is just bullshit. Some just more bullshit. There's no real reference for this. There's no proof of this inability to do anything good. This Nietzsche nonsense that nothing will ever advance. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
We live in a popular culture that is hugely influenced by a consumerist mentality that dictates you can have what you want. All you have to do is pay. In capitalism, if you want to eat food or drink alcohol or have sex.
So more nonsense, right? Okay, because the democracy is a sellout, compromised democracy, and the rational economic policy isn't really what's at debate. Okay, abortion's at debate, or religious respect is at debate. So lots of different debates. Foreigners, no foreigners, lots of other subjects drown out any rational policy about what we really want to do, whether we want to pay workers or not pay workers and all that kind of crap. I would argue that if we had a real democracy, that is an active one, where the issues got voted on, that people would vote for fair pay, and they would vote for a lot of things, and they wouldn't want to be as exploitive as we are. And that's a fact. So there again, progress is eating at it. And even if you don't say we're progressing, even if you say the same minority is that the majority is still capitalist, so what? It's only a majority. It's not everybody. All right? There's a substantial number of people who know the system is rigged and the system is bullshit. A substantial number, enough for a revolution. And so you're just a naysayer. You're just the kind of person that doesn't build nations. You don't build progress. You don't build the future. You just sit there and, oh, no, I'm a subject of the king. I can't, I can't do a revolution.
You simply find the right product and buy it. In popular culture, if you want some kind of solution, you have to work towards it. In both cases, it is taken for granted that there is a product or a solution. All you need to do is want...
You're just a naysayer. I mean, nitpicking, naysaying. You have no facts to base this argument on. You have no... I will make my statement that there's nothing I see in any reasoning that provides any reason to say the future is failure. No reason.
It. Just as someone with the money can buy a stupid huge yacht, someone with the disposition can change the world. There is no question of there not being the right product, or of there not being...
Well, you just said how nothing changes. You can't change the world, that all these things are systemic and forever, and you'll never. Those were your rhetoric, asshole. Now you're saying anybody could change the world, anything can happen. Which is it, hypocrite? See, I mean, they're just such hypocrites. They applied their own double standard to their own ideology. They'd realize how, wow, what a hypocrite. You're just such hypocrites.
A solution. We're so used to wanting and getting, we don't realise, often forget, that we can't always get what we want. We may remind ourselves from time
What is some sort of religious speech? What the hell is that nonsense again? It says you. You certainly didn't profile me anywhere in this mush.
time. But just as the selfish rich bastard will be upset if he can't get his yacht, an unselfish community activist will be upset if she can't prevent her community from being bulldozed for new living spaces.
Well, whatever that even means. All causes have to be measured independently. Some causes, there's lots of passion and no practical solution. I would argue the cause of saving feral cats has been ruined by a bunch of people who are afraid to put a cat to sleep. They're afraid to do the economical, rational thing and instead attempt some irrational fix that cannot possibly work. That is just doomed to waste money and waste suffering.
The difference is obvious, and there is no guarantee that the community activist will in fact lose her campaign, but there is no guarantee that she won't, and the possibility...
Oh, yeah, so again, you're telling us what the future is. Again, this is just such nonsense. That's right, there's a risk to fighting the war, but the rewards and the punishments will be very high. But again, winning is big. There's a lot at stake here, a lot to save. Being a hero, it might be a really good idea. Jumping on this grenade might be the really right thing to do.
of failure becomes greater the wider the campaigning becomes. Being able to stop local homes from being bulldozed may have at least a chance of happening. Stopping the world's leading polluting...
What is he even talking about? Local homes from being bulldozed? What is this? What is this? What are you talking about? Oh, hilarious.
Industries from polluting much less so. Now imagine the width of communities.
This is more nonsense, right? I mean, Lake Erie was a fucking filthy swamp, and they did clean it. Fact is we did clean up a lot of messes. Did make some progress. So again, this isn't a story about failing. Failing to be efficient, failing to do it as soon as we should have, failing to fix a lot of problems we haven't fixed for hundreds of years. Yes, but there's no evidence that that's all we can do is fail.
The world's human population, that it is in their best interests to stop having children and going extinct.
It's already their best interest. They've already figured it out. So again, why can't... Are you completely ignorant of the real statistics? That if it wasn't for the third world, the first world has already decided to go extinct. Their native population has no interest in creating the family size necessary for replacement. That's the fact. Even though it's subsidized, even though they are increasing the subsidies, they still can't get smart people to breed too much. They can't get it to happen, asshole. And here you are, it can't happen, it's not possible. It's already happening on planet Earth. I mean, you people are so ludicrous. This is a ludicrously stupid argument to make. Oh, it can't happen. It's already happening, asshole.
And what the chances of that might be. This is where the disconnect comes in. One would expect that to be a given.
You're completely disconnected from the actual statistical facts of what's going on planet Earth. Population increase is in fact declining, and it is in fact completely tied to giving the people more education. The more educated they are, the less kids they have. Fact.
But, sadly, activists within the antinatalist scene deal with that given simply by ignoring it. All sorts of justifications are made, but one may just as well justify why one is not having a lot of success preventing rain from falling on a rainy day.
Right, so this is just more, like I said, it's already a statistical fact. So he's a complete denial of statistical evidence, statistical facts. They're right there in front of you. Okay, the fact is the Japanese population is in decline. Do you deny the fact? The fact is they're not antinatalist. They don't even know the subject. And they've already chosen it, for fuck's sake.
That disconnect is, you would hope, apparent to some of our antinatalist activists, but they have other reasons for being activists. As someone who's been in political activism, I can well imagine what those reasons are.
Okay, so you're admitting you're a shyster and a liar. So fine. There, the conversation's really over. Yes, okay. Having an honest conversation about the meaning of life doesn't appeal to you because you're just a shyster, crooked, what's in it for me, or political angler bullshitter. Fine. See ya. I won't be missing you.
Usually they're personal. One is indignant about a particular injustice, as one sees it, and one feels duty-bound to right.
Yeah, no. So again, he's negating all philosophical conversation. He's saying all subjects are nothing. They're all moot. They all don't mean anything. They're all trivial. No, they're not, asshole. There's real value at stake. Now, you don't believe that. Why don't you just admit it, okay? And everybody can just call you the nihilist pig you are and say, fuck you, you're an idiot.
That injustice. But there's a lot going on in that. In this case, indignation against life itself is just futile.
So some more nonsense. There's no evidence of any futility. I mean, I'm just stated. It's just there's absolutely no evidence that we can't eradicate smallpox. Oh, apparently we did, didn't we? Oh yeah, Black Plague. Oh, we can't stop. Oh, well, we sort of stopped that one too, didn't we? I mean, all of these negative things don't exist anymore in the civilized world. So again, there's more just gibber from you. Oh, you can't stop anything. Sure, you can stop it. A little bit of motivation and, yeah, easily done. Problem solved.
One thing to feel the world sucks and life is shit and want it all to die, and another thing to express those feelings in so many words, but to actually want to make it come.
No, it's not even hard to do. Many people have personal life stories. I didn't even get the worst of it, okay? I mean, I got some of it, but I didn't get the worst of it. People have a lot worse stories than I have to tell. And they can simply make this simple argument. What are you assholes doing to justify it? And you would keep doing it? You'd keep torturing people for this? For this? For what? The Emmy Awards? You torture people for the Emmys? Oh, please.
About requires, I think, a particular need that is not associated just with antinatalism, but rather with that basic human need for meaning in a meaningless life. People in
so more mush. You don't need to find. Look, if you have a working, from me, my personal experience, if you have a working penis, you have all the entertainment you need, okay, to last a lifetime. Nobody's here because this is fun. Well, I needed meaning, so I had to find a cause that would totally distract me from, playing video games and whacking off. No, I'd be perfectly happy playing video games and jerking off, asshole. I'm not here for any of your dopey reasons, except the reason that, you can't show me the pictures of the concentration camps and then I'm just going to say, who cares? I can't do that. Sorry. It's not in me. I'm not capable of that.
Aren't good with nihilism, and it's interesting how antinatalists use the word nihilism as an accusation.
Yes, it's a pejorative statement. It should be right next to like diarrhea and plague. I mean, it's like brain fungus. It's such a fucking preposterous pile of nonsense. I'm important, everything else isn't. What a pile of shit. It's about the most ignorant philosophy anyone can generate in a human neurological network. You can't possibly make the network any dumber, okay, than to say, I'm the show, and the only show. Oh, fuck it. I mean, it's just too fucking stupid. Amazing.
Because antinatalism is based on morality, and acceptance of
no, it's based on suffering be bad, okay? And it doesn't matter whether it's in my brain or their brain or his brain. It's all the same thing. It's always suffering. It's always plague. I don't have to have plague. Somebody else can have it, and it's still bad, just as bad when they have it as I have it. That's a simple conclusion. And the realization that there's no winning this thing, okay? If a bunch of other things are suffering, then there's no winning here.
As merely a human convenience for human purposes will just not do for antinatalist activists. For them, morality is intrinsic, either within human thought or even as some...
So more nonsense, right? So most people who are at all philosophically advanced do not use words like morality because they know these are ethical arguments. They're arguments about value. And you either have value axioms or you have no value axioms. So my value axioms are, I know the difference between a cupcake and a nail in my eye. And I know there's a cavern of value difference between those two things. Huge value at stake between those two things. And I know that the same value applies to every other sentient brain. There, we're done with the axioms. Now, you apparently don't accept one of those axioms. Either you don't accept there's a huge difference between a cupcake and a nail in your eye, or you don't accept that the other brains are just as real in terms of producing that difference. The difference is realized in a sentient brain. Which one is it? Which one don't you understand? Can I stick nails in your eye and you'll say it's okay? Or is it that you think you're real and everybody else is phony? Which stupid idea do you have? You fucking idiot.
Kind of actual phenomena in the world. Of course, humans are intrinsically moral, but to certain degrees and on...
It's the silliest statement ever. I mean, where's our intrinsic morality? What the hell are you talking about? We're intrinsically selfish. You think selfishness is a moral concept or an ethical concept or a concept at all? No, it's a function. Okay, and it's always stupid. It's unintelligent on its face. It requires no thought to say, I wish to polish my penis, and I'll use you as the rag. You know, an idiot says that's all there is to calculate.
Different things. Morals change all the time. They're flexible. One could perhaps imagine
even this nonsense. They're obviously flexible. Everything's flexible in the sense that there's a deterministic universe and each thing is going to be determined based on the environment in which it's raised in. So fortunately for kids raised today, they can get all kinds of different input. They can watch this video. They can see that the norms might be just stupid frickin' doctrine, you know, just dogma established for no good reason, and that there might be some real math you could do here to figure out what the real equation is.
Theological development towards some kind of ultimate morality, and antinatalist activists do give the impression that they believe that of themselves, that they stand at the end of morality's history as its ultimate inheritors.
No, the statement is that you really can't get any more fundamental in terms of a social cause, in terms of prevention. That's it. There's only prevention. There's nothing before prevention. There's not some better thing. Like there's band-aids, there's cures, there's prevention. Nothing. There's no block before that one. That's the ultimate way to stop the dam from breaking, is to close the valve. You know, simple things like that. The simple arguments like that. And essentially we're talking about the ultimate value, which is the condition, okay, of the sentient brain, which is you're just creating something to be whipped. That's it. You can't do anything good to it. All you can do is do bad to it and then take the bad away and say you did something good, which is obviously not intelligent.
But that leads to another reason people become activists, that being hubris. I've always thought that there are two types of activists. One is the type of people who really have little, if any, choice.
Oh, listen to this. You know, so full of himself. He has this crystal ball. He can see that civilized nations will never reduce their population. Wait a minute. The facts indicate exactly the opposite. You suck at this. You're the hubris one. You're the one dancing way off the cliff, okay? And you got nowhere to go but down. You're never going to run back and grab hold. You're so cooked by your stupidity.
I think of the example of Australian Aboriginal activists whose campaigns against racism and ongoing genocide are invariably the results of outrageous conditions being pushed onto them by society and its authorities. If your kid was deliberately run down by some cunt on a Range Rover...
Well, look, the point is that there's a thing called civilization. You have wars over it and all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, when you lose, you lose. So, too bad. I'm sorry you lost, but you lost. We're not doing... Boo, woo, 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 woo. We're not going to put feathers on our heads or bones in our nose, and we're not going to knock our kids' teeth out. We're not going to pretend to be fucking morons anymore, all right? We're not going back 500 years or 10,000 years. We're not going to have little villages where people can be, walk around and smash each other in the head with clubs and shit. No, we're not going to do that, okay? We're civilized. You need to be a civilized person in one of us, or... you decide to be, you're saying, I have to be an eccentric native, okay, and us natives just rape our women. Well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to say you can have your own little wonder world where you can do your bullshit. Forget it. They lost. Too bad. I'm sorry, but that's the price of losing.
Because the cunt was looking for someone who stole his bike, and your kid was just as good as any other because he was black, you would be well inclined to want justice for the child. In the society you're in, you have no choice but to become active because basic justice is denied to Aboriginals. The other type, though...
I'm not sure if that is true, but yes, it could be. But look, you can analyze the circumstances in any one of these countries, and you can find blame on both sides. Again, the natives are requesting the right, okay, to set up their own nation in Victory Lane. It's like the losers saying, I want a section of Victory Lane. I want champagne. I want girls. I want all this stuff. I want to pretend I won when I lost.
Is the one that takes on the woes of the world. Looking at things from a usually distinct perspective, this individual is aghast at the state of things and duty-bound to...
So what is all this crap? So again, what is all this analysis? You either get it or you don't. It's a cause or it's a cause you're not interested in. So whether you're fighting bullfighting or you're fighting dog fighting or you're fighting cockfighting, what's the matter what you're fighting? You're either say there's a cause or there's no cause. So you're saying there's no cause here is what you're saying, right? You're really trying to say there's no cause here. There's no concentration camps. Okay, the animals aren't being tortured right now in the food industry, and nature's wonderful. Nature's just fine. Killing 10,000 babies is perfectly good mathematics. Yes, of course, killing 10,000 children makes perfectly good sense to have one adult. Yeah, what's irrational about that? That's perfectly sensible. I mean, for a psycho killer thinks that's really great math. But I don't think rational people can't make that into good math.
Correct them, or at least make the attempt. That in itself requires a high opinion of oneself. You have to feel that you have agency.
So more bullshit, right? You have to have confidence. And what is there exactly about your counter-argument, which is idiotic on its face? First off, that somehow we can't control human population when there's every evidence it was already under control. And the only thing that's keeping it out of control is the importation of the out-of-control people. Fact. I mean, they were all very good drivers in civilization until they imported the bad drivers, if you know what I mean here, right? I mean, we had already figured out how to be smart, and we imported dumb. Is there some other way to look at it? I don't think so. I don't think there's any rational other way to look at it. What do you think America, how many people would be in America if they didn't import the Mexicans? Or the South Americans, or the Asians, or all the other people? What do you think the population would be, idiot? You think it would have gone up or down, dumbass?
Able to go into the future not as an aimless individual organism borne along by the usual forces of life and society and one's own inner urges, but by some conscious process born by the right ideology.
I mean, clearly, people are overtly controlling birth. Women don't have 10 kids or 15. What are you talking about? We've been controlling our birth rate for a long time. The only argument is we should be exercising a little more restraint. We should have even lower numbers. But the fact is, it's for a long time, women don't have 10 kids. This urge thing, all the rest of this stuff, somehow we overcome that. So where's your rational argument? This isn't some biological thing we can't overcome. Human beings can control their birth rate. Animals certainly cannot. That's why we have to help them.
The right ideology is very important, and it's no surprise that antinatalists...
And what is the ideology? Again, it's two facts, right? Where's the ideology here? What's so complicated? Suffering is bad, especially when it's wasted. Is there some circumstance where it's not wasted? No. Okay, so we're done, right? Tough ideological conversation, huh? Yeah, that was really rough. No, it was really simple.
Love to argue, love to use logic, pick every sentence apart.
Oh, what a horrible thing to use logic. Whoa, God. Boy, those logic people really suck. Yeah. God, you really can't be a more gaping asshole, can you?
And hold up every word to scrutiny. In other words, to act like pseudo-intellectuals. Even when...
So this means what? Again, so you're not going to demonstrate this with any example of how any anti-natalist as pseudo-intellectual do. You know, where's your argument? Where's your example? Are you going to provide any examples? No. Are you going to quote anybody? No. You're just talking shit. Because you're a shit-talking, trolly piece of crap. This is just jabber. You're just jabbering, you know. Guilt by innuendo.
Intellectual standard is not very high. Not everyone can be Benatar, but every antinatalist activist thinks they've gone one step...
Yeah, well, everybody can't be Benatar. So where's the evidence that Benatar has radically changed the game, that he's made this incredible contribution by which there can be no improvement? He's made the perfect argument. I read the book, okay? It's about 470 pages too long. Because he's only making like 6 arguments in the whole book, you know, 6 little arguments, frankly. We have optimism bias. Yeah, so bias is always important in any argument you're going to make. You always want to tell people, you know, you got to make sure you're not going into the conversation with a fake axiom, a fake notion of a fake truth. So let's look at it honestly. What kind of storytelling do we do about life? Oh, that's right, we write a bunch of fairy tales. And that even our own narrative regarding our own life, we edit it. You know, we turn it into a fairy tale. If we want to talk about the dragons we had to fight and I struggled and I had to walk through the snow and I had to do this and I had to, you know, we make ourselves into little heroes. It's all storytelling. So we know, yes, humans are storytellers. Bad thing. So let's get to the reality of it. What are we really doing here? Oh, that's right, we're chasing. We're chasing food. We're chasing comfort mainly. So yes, we chase oxygen, we chase food, we chase something to polish our penises with. You know, we chase some things, possessions, ownerships. You know, I want to stand on the higher hill. You know, we chase status. We're just chasers, you know, by nature. But what are we capable of being? Well, we're capable of being anything. We're capable of being artists. We're capable of being honest. You know, and then start talking about, oh, what is it to be honest? To be honest is to recognize that, yes, I think my story is important because it's my story. But there's no reason for me to think anybody else should think it needs to be written. Oh, it's such a vital book. No reason. So there's subject 2. Subject 3, basically, there are no real goods. Goods are just elimination of bads. Because that's all there is. There's just relative comparisons. And, you know, I can always compare every circumstance to a circumstance that's worse. You know, you can have plague and pneumonia, you know, and coronavirus or something, you know. I can always make it worse. So what? That doesn't make it good. So, anyway, moving on.
Further, by taking the conclusions of his ideas and putting them into some kind of practice. But to do that, their arguments have to be crystal clear, their arguments faultless, and their determination to...
Yeah, there's no fault in the argument from evolution. There's no way to fuck it up. You just show what evolution does. Evolution is a mass murderer of children. You can prove it in court. It massively murders the immature, the you know, cute and cuddly, horribly tortures them to death. You know, kills the mother lion, and the little cubs are sitting there just waiting for the hyenas. They circle around. You know, we've seen all the pictures. We've seen what happens in nature. We've seen the horror. the absolute horror. Okay? Isn't the subject over? Haven't I just finished the subject in a way? There's nothing else happening here. There's just evolution. There's just a gladiator war. The rest of it is just a bunch of silly conversation. The best of it, oh, isn't it just wonderful? Oh, Billy just grew his first little front toothy, and oh, and he spelled, booger right for the first time. Huh. That makes it all okay? Some silly, inane, dopey conversation by some dopey human being, dressed in their silly fucking purple and their blah blah blah, and it's laughable. Oh, that compensates for all that crap happening. No, that compensates.
Take those arguments into any area unshakable. That involves a lot of gumption on their part. But if they feel that they have the right...
Well, that's pretty easy gumption to motivate yourself with. It's pretty easy to gain up the gumption to say religion is a fairy tale. I mean, they're absolutely silly, stupid old stories. I mean, just as silly as they could be, just as old as they could be, just as fucking dumb as they could be. Why would anybody fall for that crap? So, yeah, you're stuck with evolution, and evolution's a shitty story. A bunch of error code. Ugh. Trial and error. Let's use real victims as our trial and error experimental probes. It's like, how many kids can we stick in the oven until we figure out the oven's too hot? 1 million?
Arguments, logic, and therefore ideology, they feel empowered to do so. You can see the comparisons easily. Christians had infallible dogma after long centuries of apology.
All right, so some more just bullshit. So evolution is the same as religion. It's just another religious story. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's built on an insane amount of evidence. So let's just forget about evidence as being part of the argument. Let's forget about the tradition of the difference between testifying as a witness and testifying to evidence. Fundamentally different things, and you're just going to pretend all conclusions drawn about reality are the same. They're all religions. So that's one of your axioms. Every statement about reality, every statement you can make about reality is a religious statement. None of them can be demonstrated by evidence to be superior, to be correct. I mean, it's a stupid comparison. It's just fucking idiotic.
Critics sharpening their reasons, working with their words, and eventually cataloguing, correcting, and completing every argument until it reached a perfection that could not be questioned. The humanists of the Renaissance simply put man in place of God and theorized accordingly.
No, it's not that complicated. Write down a list of all the goods that aren't made out of avoiding a bad. Go ahead. Give me your list of all the goods that aren't made good by comparison to the bad alternative. Good luck with that.
Until the ideas that man is the sum of all things and all things must be accorded to him became their dogma. This variation went through the centuries until we got our own understanding of rights today. Rights, of course...
I mean, clearly religion only survives because it makes people into the nihilist pigs that you are, into creeps, assholes who make justifications for everything. They justify the pain and the suffering by some excuse. It's okay, God said so. So I can keep playing. It doesn't matter if I hurt things. God says it's all right. It doesn't matter that, this overt bad things happen to good people. It's okay because God says it's okay. It's just excuse making.
Only makes sense when they can be enforced as laws, but on their own, they're just spooks, as Stirner called them. Ideas that, however attractive or even logical, are still just ideas with no power on their own. When people override the rights of others, and there is nothing to uphold those rights on behalf of those being overridden, rights have actual no agency in the world. So
I think either can be defended as existing or not existing. It's the simple truth. Should it be or shouldn't it be? Is it cost effective? Is the only. What's the efficiency say? Period. That's it. That decides the case. I mean, you don't spend, $10 to drive to a grocery store because you have a 10-cent coupon.
Antinatalist activists are armed with their own infallible dogma, given to them by the saints of antinatalism.
Okay, so there's going to be no evidence of this dogma. What dogma is that? So you won't articulate any of this crap. You won't state anything real. He just makes this veiled accusation, this implied statement. So again, guilt by implication. I can pretend you are something and I will describe you as something. I'll make accusations for which I will provide no evidence. That makes you a piece of shit, fucker.
Natalism. It's not so secular a scene when people within it are exalted as better than normal people, or when the idea of
and again, more silliness, right? Oh, it's better not to be a rapist. So the people who don't rape shouldn't have any kind of sense that, oh, gee, at least I'm not a rapist. I'm better than that asshole. That shouldn't be a reality, a fact. You shouldn't feel good about not being an asshole sometimes by mitigating against some of your assholery. You shouldn't be able to state, I'm not a mass murderer. Be proud of it. Why not? Why shouldn't you be proud of not being a mass murderer? Gee, I feel okay about that. Yeah, I didn't gratuitously harm other people for my gratification.
Natalism is exalted as above all other ideas. When that happens, all antinatalists are doing are joining the ranks of previous cults. Taking something that is just
another zero evidence for any of this mush. And again, if cults were correct, if these people actually were what they claim, the Son of God and all this other stuff, the cult would make perfectly good sense. But yes, obviously the cult was based on a lie. So what part of the philosophy are you saying is a lie? Can you just point out the lie in any of the axioms stated for the philosophy? Do you think suffering, again, can you tell the difference between a nail in the eye and a cupcake? Can you tell the difference between the fact that because I feel I shouldn't deduce that other brains do the same thing, that I recognize the feeling thing happens because of the 100 billion neurons I have. That's exactly why there are 100 billion of them, as they're creating this complex sensation syndrome, and that the same syndrome is happening to all the 100 billion neurons equipped organisms. So which one of those axioms is somehow flawed, fuckhead?
Another idea, just another opinion, and insisting that 1, all antinatalists adopt it as their personal core belief, and 2, do whatever it takes to make others adopt it. In this case, that...
Some more garbage, right? I mean, that's just absolute garbage. Whatever it takes? What do you mean? What? I sledgehammered somebody? I broke down their door and forced them to listen to me? Where have antinatalists made these violations of ethics and decency? I am not allowed to make a video expressing my opinions? That's not a polite way to make your argument? I think it's polite enough. I don't force my videos down anybody's throat. What the fuck are you talking about? Crazy person. You're absolutely fucking crazy to make accusations like this from your little fucking patio. How dare you?
Means recruiting. The method is argumentation and propaganda. Antinatalists have turned into trolls.
So again, where's the evidence of the propaganda? Where's the lies? Where's the will to manipulate? Where's any of this? I'm going to try to fool them into believing so I can catch them in my, antinatalist, you're an antinatalist now trap. Where's the evidence of that? I'm going to force them to sign a piece of paper. I'm an antinatalist, even when they're not, because I'm going to write some kind of, I'm going to write the text in backwards text. And so they're going to read it backwards and not realize they just signed the I'm an antinatalist paper. Where's any of this manipulation? God, you're such a piece of scum.
Or any other rump of defeated political ideologies that had their moment and then perished. And antinatalism...
So, again, more nonsense. What had its peak and then perished? Atlantis or something? What are you talking about again? Where's the example of the that this is the test? We've seen it throughout all civilizations. They have dark ages and then they have ages of enlightenment and all that kind of stuff. You're so full of shit.
as long as it's seen in its activist state only, is doomed to follow the same route. Perhaps even more so now, because now it seems in the English-speaking section of the online antinatalist scene there's been a split. One half of the split are the ethilists, which is just antinatalism but applied to living beings. Here is where ethics go from personal considerations or collectively agreed to rules to outright imposition.
Okay, so this is the nonsense, right? So again, he's basically saying it's all about this selfish stuff, that we are not smart enough to figure out there's a whole maze and that there's a whole organization running through the maze. And it's just every man for himself. There's no such thing as a philosophy that recognizes that's stupid and ignorant. That we're all carrying the value gene. We all carry the value machine. I don't lay special golden eggs. They're any more special than anybody else's golden eggs. And it's the golden eggs that have the value. The capacity to suffer. That's the value. That's the value engine. And that's the claim, is that's the thing that needs to be controlled because it's dangerous. Making pain is a dangerous thing to do.
Other animal species may or may not have their own morality. We'll never know. But what we do know...
Oh, Mart, I mean, this is just baby talk, right? I mean, does anybody with an intelligent brain think that's anything... Like, that would be a statement, like the aliens, the smartest aliens in the universe would sit there and play with a sentence that fucking stupid? The animals have their own morality? I mean, it's retarded. They don't even know the other animals are sentient. They don't even know what a brain is, for fuck's sake. I mean, incredibly stupid statement.
Is that it's impossible for them to have human morality. Nonetheless...
It's impossible for them to have intelligent morality. They haven't gone to school. They don't know the simplest dynamics of the maze. They haven't had a chance to crawl up anywhere near to get to the top of the maze and look around. They have no idea what they're stuck in.
Ethilists have arrogantly deemed themselves as so worthy to judge everything that they judge other species with the same ethical standards as humans.
It's more nonsense. So where's the quote? Where's the quote of somebody blaming the lion for eating other animals? Where's this quote where somebody's blamed them? It's their fault. Where is that argument? Because it doesn't exist, liar. Okay, the argument exists, it's unproductive. It's not a good thing to be. Like being retarded or something. It's just not a good thing to be. That's the extent of the moral judgment. You're retarded and your function is below the necessary standard. You're causing too much pain and suffering. That's it. So we shouldn't put prisoners in jail, right? So a guy who goes out and harms and rapes, we shouldn't put him in jail. We shouldn't stop him. Yeah, we should. Don't have to hate him. Don't have to blame him for being sick. But we can stop him.
There really shouldn't be any need to come up with a counter-argument to this nonsense. But it gets even sillier when ethilists have deemed that other species must share the same fate of extinction as humans. Even your most...
Yeah, so the argument is that it's the living thing that has this competitive compulsion. And the competitive compulsion is totally unproductive and useless. It serves no purpose. It's a gladiator war. Nothing's accomplished. All the gladiators die, and you're just making it so they die worse than they need to, for no accomplishment. Nothing will be gained. Nothing. It's all wasted suffering. So where did you defeat that argument? Oh yeah, nowhere.
Hardcore vegan wouldn't contemplate destroying animal species in order to save them, but ethilists do. The logic is tortured and based solely on their own feelings regarding animal suffering.
Feelings. No, it's regarded on an understanding. You either understand that the suffering is being wasted and the waste should stop, you should turn the valve off, or you don't. You either understand that prevention is the best way to cure the problem, to fix it. Band-Aids are useless. You can't fix it any other way than to stop it. And so a little short-term pain, long-term gain. Explain how it's not long-term gain. And explain how the pain isn't short-term. Explain how the math doesn't work. Oh, you won't do that. You'd have to have balls and integrity to actually deal with the argument instead of pretend you dealt with it because you strawmanned it.
But they have adopted it. It's no mistake that the proponent of this so-called philosophy is himself one of the most aggressive and deluded individuals one could know of, let alone...
Prove it. Make one fucking argument proving it. Just one. Can you prove it with some sort of evidence? Oh, yeah, I'm waiting. I'll have to wait a very long time, won't I? Yes, I will.
An encounter, but it's worse that there are those who actually accept his nonsense despite their own misgivings. This is where we are at now, the result of antinatalist activism and the attitude it comes from.
And their misgivings are made out of what? Besides the same misgivings I had to the philosophy. The same took me a long time to get here kind of thing, you know. I mean, I reached a conclusion, you know, knowing that it's bullshit when I was 7. I knew it was fatally flawed. But it wasn't until you gain more and more perspective that you really appreciate just how flawed and just how seriously bad this is. So, yeah, more perspective. The more you see inside the slave camp. So, you know, you go inside the factory farm or even go to a regular farm and see how the animals live. You know, the more real it becomes. So, yeah, the more experience you have with it, the more you see clearer and clearer.
If it makes sense to save humanity from suffering by ending humanity, it makes sense to save animals from suffering by ending animals. The ridiculous of this needs very little conscious attention.
So you prove that life is worth living with what argument? Oh, that's right, no argument. Oh, okay. Oh, jeez. How lame can this be? I mean, why make a video when you have no argument in the video?
You need to engage in the same fruitless arguments about whether it's right to do so or not. The only thing that needs to be said is the same thing that's been said to basic antinatalist activists. You will lose. You cannot destroy...
So again, your prediction does not intimidate me or in any way affect me because it's based on no reasoning. How am I losing when we're on the cusp of negative population growth? I mean, you know, like I said, if we choose to create more ignorant masses, that is, we choose to keep blowing countries into the Stone Age so they make, you know, so they have an average of 8 kids, yeah, we'll lose the battle. But outside of that scenario, how are we losing? And the fact is people like Trump are going to keep winning elections because most people do realize we're importing shit. That why should we do that? Why should we just say, let's import a bunch of shit to fuck our country to hell?
Life on Earth. It's as simple as that. But what a great pity, at least for those of us who don't mind calling ourselves antinatalists without involving ourselves in the dire and emotional events of the last few days.
Right, who don't pay any attention to the subject, who they call themselves something for no good reason whatsoever. They wish to accomplish absolutely nothing. They wish to just say, I'm a pessimist. Well, whoop-de-fucking-do to that one.
That antinatalism has come to this. Not that there's anything we can do about it either. What will be, will be. And when it comes to activism, what usually happens is that...
This is more nonsense. What will be, will be. It will be because people will make arguments and they'll persuade people like Martin Luther King and shit. You'll make some kind of rational argument like judge a man based on the content of his character, not the color of his skin. Some kind of sensible argument. Your sensible argument is, who cares? I'm a nihilist. Your sensible argument is, don't worry, be happy. Animals aren't suffering in any way that really matters, so fuck it. It's not a cause or anything. What's your honor? Your argument is nothing. Your answer to the problem is, fuck it. I don't care. You shouldn't care.
The majority become tired or frustrated or burned out or just bored and go on to do other things. The hardcore remnant will pride themselves on being so, hunkering themselves in deeper in their ideological barracks, spitting.
So more bullshit, right? No sign of any desperation or deeper digging here. I'm sticking my head up more than ever. Because the argument's getting easier and easier to win because you're getting lamer and lamer. You don't have any fucking arguments. You have nothing but fucking insults. And they don't have any integrity at all. You're just terrible hypocrites. If I assailed you with the same mush you just attempted to assail me with, you'd be laughing. Like, what the fuck is that shit? That's all jargon. Where did you prove I made a miscalculation? Where did you prove I made a misstatement? Oh, yeah, that's right, nowhere. That's what you'd be saying, asshole. You did nothing.
Invective onto a world that just doesn't understand, just doesn't care, just won't do what it's supposed to do because they say so. I've seen.
So again, the world is already doing exactly what I wanted to do. It's already doing the job, okay? And the only impediment is the fact that there's a few too many people who want to hug poor people and think they're the greatest thing in the world when they're not. They're ignorant and a menace.
Many times before. It's annoying, it's stupid, and it's depressing.
Whatever. Like I said, you seem very uncommitted, and for whatever dumb reasons, you think this is all an academic conversation of some kind, I guess, or something. Nothing real is at stake for you. Well, I'm telling you, yeah, everything's at stake for me. I know the pattern here. Okay, I get what's going on. And if we made a video game or we made a real thing, where, we force something to die in all these miserable ways, and we had the little catch that it forgot. It forgets each time the previous experience. And we just force it to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And once you know that's the trick is you've been here for a long goddamn time, consciousness, and you've endured awful, horrible things. And it's a tragic, terrible waste. And all there is, you can't clean up the past. All we can do is protect the future. All we can do is finally shut this bad show down. Kill this fucking psycho killer. That's all there is. You either want to be a detective in the fight, you want to, do something to stop the harm, or you're a fence-sitting douchebag who sits there and makes these complex commentaries on social interaction or something, as if that's what this is about. This isn't about a social interaction. It's about a fucking argument, and one you can't make worse shit. So you're a loser in the battle, and you're pretending you're above it all. Well, you're not above it all. You lost, and you will lose, and we will win, and we will celebrate, the fact that you failed, and we might even piss on your grave just for fun. Because it really won't hurt you any. It might please us some. So, fuck you. You douche.
Recent events have shown, I think, the real drawbacks with taking on antinatalism as an ideological cause, as opposed to an ethical
the drawback
stance.
is you're going to lose.
For quite a while,